good afternoon to all, and welcome, the students and all of you. Joe, كيف انت, all right? Yes. I didn't say hello to one of my best friends from school, Joe. All right, so my name is John Portelli. I happen to be, and I'm glad to be, the chair of the 3CL board. So I have met with the kind students who have agreed to participate openly and fairly and respectfully in this dialogue. But I need to say some thank yous right at the very beginning. It is not an easy task at all to organize a conference of this magnitude and with the diversity that we tried to create. I'm not trying to take the credit. The credit is really due to Dr. Alex Grech, my good colleague and friend. And to our assistant, Miss Courtney Bonnet. Of course, there is also the support of the people who supported financially and in other ways, including the members of the board, Joe Kauki and Professor Baldacchino and George Borch and Frederick Schembri. That's it, Alex, right?
I don't know, you may have forgotten some, but we'll do.
At any rate, if I have forgotten, I want to thank them as well. Now, it's a big topic in this conference. We discussed a lot, even the very title of the conference. Some of us think the phrase post-truth should not be used because then we are reproducing fake news and so on and so forth. But I'm very glad because these big issues did actually arise. I should also thank, by the way, all the speakers who accepted our invitation to come and talk. There are two very quick introductory points I want to make. So it is not an easy topic, and our aim was to create a forum where indeed genuine controversial issues are raised and discussed as openly as we can. There are always limits. We are human beings. There are psychological limits, there are relational limits, there are physical limits, and so on and so forth. But we tried to do our very best. This is my own personal reflection. I have noticed a bias in the general conversation towards a certain kind of classical liberalism. To me, with all due respect, and I have written about this, there is nothing hidden, classical liberalism gave rise to the current neoliberal conditions, which to me are very unjust and very colonial and imperialist in nature. I have said this in Toronto, where I teach at the University of Toronto, and I am most of the time labeled as either a person who believes in conspiracy theories or a crazy Marxist or a fanatic. Okay, Joe knows me well. We were activists in the university at the time, and I'm not afraid to say, because we were activists, this was 1972, we did suffer as well. I have to say that. And yet, they were very good times in other ways. I say this because I also think that this neoliberalism is reproducing a very dangerous form of relativism, which is different from believing that things are relational, a dangerous form of relativism, where at some point it's almost like truth does not matter. Or truth can be decided by a consensus, or truth can be decided by politicians, or truth can be decided by journalists, okay? But these are big philosophical issues, they are big issues in political theory, and they are big issues in ethical theory, okay? Now, in terms of the procedures, I met with the students on and off. Sorry, I have to give you my back now. I hope that's all right. You have other reasons to say I'm an extremist, sorry. Huh? If I stand on the side, okay, good, all right. Alex is always there to save me. Thank you, Alex. So, the point is this too high? Is this too low? Sorry. There are procedures that I explained to our student group that we would like them to really speak their mind as openly as they can and do that in a respectful way. Most probably, and this is fine, there will be disagreements. There may be different interpretations. That's all right. My aim here is to allow as many voices to come forth. And of course, I remind them to give space to other people to talk. And I will involve you as much as we can in conversation, all right? I don't have any hidden agendas other than I would like you to express yourself, and I will encourage you to raise the issues. I may push you. It doesn't mean I'm disagreeing with you, but I may push you so that I will give you a better chance to express yourselves, all right? But there is also a content part to this session. And the conference, when we were discussing it among ourselves, we identified 4 major themes which are listed on the webpage, and that is the whole issue of media and truth, the whole issue of technology, the whole issue of governance, and the issue of education. So we have about an hour of this, and then I will try to engage the audience as much as we can, comments and so on, and then I will conclude with a mini concluding remarks from the students and the youth. So I will have 15 minutes on each of these themes, okay? It doesn't mean you have to feel compelled to talk on every topic, but if you raise your hand, we will pass the microphone and we will move on. As an introduction, I'm going to read one of my poems. I write poetry. I have 4 collections of poetry. Joe happened to translate my 4th collection from Maltese into English. All of my academic stuff, the 11 books, are in English. All of my literary stuff is in Maltese to make a political statement. I have a novel, I have short stories, a new one coming out, and 4 collections of poetry. So I will start by reading a poem. And I hope I will not offend anyone, but this is of course written from my perspective of having taught in faculties of education in Canada since 1982, coming to Malta frequently, and also you need to know, I'm not afraid to say it, at the age of 15 I failed everything in school. I was kicked out of school in Malta, 1969, and I was told in Maltese, Ibni, inti tayyeb al-ħruq. You're only good to be thrown to the fireplace. I feel like saying today, F off, or other times I feel like saying, thank you. That's all I will say. So, this is entitled Fake News. It's not very long. I will read it very quickly in Maltese and then an English translation, okay? Fake News. Lampuki friski min għandu lampuki ħajjin jajjat il-bejjeħ minn marsa xlok. U l-lampuki bajnejhom fis-sni mħadna fis-silġ ġo kaxxa. U tfal tal-iskola deħlin reqdin fringiela dritta nofshom mejta bla sunnara ibeżel quddem tar-riġidità ġi moħra ta' torturi mobbija bil-bagalji tal-erf. Aħjar lampuka mejta friska ħajja taqbes jaħlef tal-ħut minn fuq it-trakk. Fake news. Minar skola minti xejn, l-erf mux is-sunnara, l-erf mux fis-sajjieda u l-għalliema, l-erf f'dik il-qalb li ma tħabbatx aktar. U sħab umdu ta' Settembru itella l-bċejjeġ, idellek bil-gideb ta' Trump u Boris u l-oħrajn kollha. Fake news in English, translated by one of my translators, Manda Gauci. Lampuki, for those who are not Maltese, is a very common fish that breeds in the Mediterranean I think it's called Dorado, but we left it as Lampuki to give the present context, okay? Lampuki. Lampuki, fine, fresh Lampuki right here. Lampuki alive. Alive. Cries the fishmonger from Marsashlock. There the fish lie with fixated eyes, cradled in a box of ice. And the school children begin to pile wearily in a rigid line, half dead, unhooked, spewing the blood of rigidity. Another week of torture, burdened with bags of tricks. Better a dead, fresh fish, alive, leaping alive, swears the fishmonger on the truck. Fake news, indeed. Without education, you are nothing. Wisdom lies not within the hook. Wisdom lies not within the fishermen and the teachers. Wisdom lies in that heart which no longer beats. And the sweltering September clouds draw forth the shreds smeared with the lies of the Trumps and the Borises and all the rest. To me, at this stage, this is more effective than writing an essay on truth philosophically, which I used to do for the rest of my life, okay? All right, so let's move on to the first part. Now we have the 15 minutes going. Good, thank you. So, truth. I told them I'm going to start with a brainstorm. Given what you heard, given your experiences, and so on and so forth, what comes to your mind when you hear the word truth? A brainstorm. Raise your hands and tell us. Brainstorm, brainstorm. Whatever comes to your mind. Yes?
Irony.
Irony. Okay, next. Jacob. You're thinking, wait, okay. Yes? Yes?
Facts. Facts.
Microphone.
Facts.
Theft?
Facts.
Facts, all right. Michaela.
Imagery.
Imagery.
Interpretation. Interpretation.
Interpretation.
Worth everything.
Weight everything.
Agreed information. Agreed information.
Agrees information, okay.
Reality.
Reality. Jacob.
Inequality.
Inequality.
A statement.
A statement.
Something unattainable.
Hey, we have the
Something
microphone. Yes.
unattainable.
Sorry?
Something unattainable.
Something unattainable. All right? Truth. Pontius Pilate, says Joe. All right. So we have a sense. Now, there are lots of questions to ask about truth. And as you see, even the fact you use one word and not another one may give the impression you're biased towards this or that. But that's okay. All right? Now, the question I want to ask you about truth is, does truth matter to you? And if it matters, why does it matter? Or are there cases where indeed truth does not matter? Why? Tell us.
Truth allows us to rise from the ignorance.
Truth allows us to
Rise from the ignorance.
from the ignorance.
I mean, you don't
Any
need,
truth?
you don't need to be smart.
In the
You
microphone.
don't need to be smart academic-wise or intelligent from education, but at least having wisdom from truth that already builds character.
So
and
now
builds
you're introducing
perspective.
another concept, the connection between wisdom and truth. I haven't heard this connection in the sessions. Is there a difference between wisdom and truth? What do you think? Sarah,
I think
right?
mainly, I think there's not a difference really, but the way we use truth shows your wisdom. And it could be some people don't agree with you with the way you portray truth. But again, it shows your character.
Okay, all right. It shows character, shows wisdom. All right, now, someone else. Let's give chance to other people. So you're saying truth matters? Truth matters. Yes? Does truth matter to you and why? Or it doesn't matter? Why as well? Yes.
During the first day, we mentioned dialogue and the importance of it in political discussion. I think the lack of truth that we have currently is the biggest issue because there's no place for dialogue when no one knows the facts and what's actually happening. You can't have a discussion on how we should go about something or address something when no one knows the current state of.
Okay, so you are saying it matters, it involves dialogue. I'm just trying to see whether I understand you. And there is a connection with facts.
Yeah.
But the dialogue is something you want to add on to the layer of truth and facts.
Yes. Facts can only encompass what happens, but the interpretation varies from person to person. No one can lie about a specific set of events, but they can lie about how they took what they took the events to mean.
Okay, so you're making what to me is an important distinction between your name is?
Nicola?
Nicole. Nicole and John at the moment are?
Having dialogue.
Having dialogue, okay? Is this a fact?
Yes.
It's a fact. Now, you are claiming that this cannot be denied.
Yes.
Of course, someone can say, you're not really, okay. It's not true, you're, okay, all right, whatever. Let's choose a simple one. I knew Cedric would say this. Okay, all right, so this is John's twin brother. No, it is John, sorry. But we can say Nicole is here, that's a fact. Now, of course, what you are saying is, the fact that you are here can be interpreted in different ways. Am I understanding you?
Yes.
Okay, and then you are adding the whole layer of dialogue. And you seem to be claiming, unless you have the facts, you cannot have a dialogue or a full dialogue.
You can't have a dialogue that's worth anything in the end.
That's not worth anything at all. Okay, are you sure the dialogue is not worth anything? I'm asking the other ones. Unless you have all the facts? Anyone can reply. Repeat the question. Are you sure that unless you have all the facts, you cannot have a good dialogue or a genuine dialogue or a full dialogue?
I think you can get a conclusion from any dialogue, but the practical use of that dialogue, it has to be based on fact. Or like, for example, we could bring up a hypothetical that's not based on fact at all.
Okay.
It's an imaginary scenario. We can come to a conclusion from it, have a valid dialogue about it, but in the end of the day, you have to apply it.
Fair enough. I could push a bit more, and I will push by asking the question, and you don't have to feel to ask. I'm not attacking you or anything like that, but can we have a dialogue on feelings? Are feelings parts of facts?
This is something that my mother used to tell me. It's better if you hurt me with the truth than shoot me with a lie.
Ah, okay.
And to be honest, even though I was a little girl, and she always told me this, even with simple thing, we were talking about having a pet rabbit, and at the end of...
You're having a what, sorry?
We have a pet rabbit,
A
for
pet
example.
rabbit, yes.
And at the end of the week, you are having rabbits too, and your rabbit is disappeared.
Yes.
What? If I ask my
Santa
mother...
Claus. No.
If I ask my mother, do I want to know the truth, or do
Yeah.
you want to know a lie just so I can go to bed asleep?
Okay. And would she tell you the truth?
Yes, because
She
it's
would.
my mother. But
Even if you cry?
yes.
So, and that's all right. Better
But-
that than having
Yes,
untruth.
because if you need to grow, and even when you are an 80-year-old person, you still need to grow by yourself, and you just need to develop, and truth is part of that. So
Okay. So truth may hurt you, but
yes,
it is worth it. That's what you
it
said.
will help
So
you
you're
grow.
giving us another reason, using feelings, why
Exactly.
it matters. Thank you. All right. Someone else. Let's hear from some other voices. It seems that the same people. Yes, sorry. There is Courtney, thank you. Yes. Sarah, Julia. No. No, oh gosh. By the way, give me a second. I should have said, how many of you are from upper secondary? Raise your hand, upper secondary. Good. How many from junior college? Don't be afraid to raise your hands, junior college. How many from MCAST? How many from university? And how many from St Aloysius or other private colleges? Okay, all right. Thank you. Go ahead. Sorry.
I believe that the truth and transparency are extremely important. It should always come out because everyone deserves to know the reality around them. Everyone deserves to know what's happening. And where they're not that hurt, as she said, we always should know what's actually happening around us. We deserve that.
Okay. Fair enough. Now, let me give a hypothetical case for us today, but and this is not a counter-argument, but a reflective point, okay? I want to make it very clear. Let us take Nazi Germany. And I'm hiding a Jewish family in the basement, and someone knocks on the door, and I say, they ask me, are you hiding a Jewish family in the basement? What do I tell them? My hunch is telling me I should say, I am not hiding a Jewish family. Me, come in, I'll give you a drink.
Hide him somewhere else and tell them that you're hiding him in your house.
That you're hiding him?
Hide him somewhere else, and then when they ask, you tell them yes. If they search, they're not going to find him there.
Yeah, but in fact, okay, you're trying to get out of the issue. But this is real issue. People have written novels and short stories about these things. What if you actually have hidden them in your basement? What do you do?
Then it comes to a point of your first question. It comes to a point of whether or not whether or not the truth is morally right or wrong. And
okay.
I think that in Nazi Germany there was a problem of morality in that,
Okay.
in the fact that most of what was happening it was all wrong,
Okay.
and that's where your morals play. And in those moments, I think that we should all defend ourselves, because the truth is that we deserve to live,
Okay.
no matter what
All right.
we think and what we believe.
Fair enough. And I think I'm with you. I usually try to distinguish, which is not my distinction, it is a distinction that Bertrand Russell, the famous English philosopher and mathematician, made between truth and truthfulness. To me, this is not a matter of truth, it's a matter of being truthful to your values. But your point, Sarah, right? Julia? Sorry. Tell me. Carlene, your point is bringing now the issue of the possible relation, and there was a session this morning, I think, about the issue of the ethics, the relation between ethics, moral issues, and the truth. And you get us right into that, right? But then and this question is to everyone, where does this leave us with, if we believe, as some of you have said, and even some of the speakers said, truth is relative, truth is subjective. What if someone says, well, yes, for me this is immoral, for you it is not immoral? Then what do we do? Yeah.
How can you tell the difference from an ignorant man to a
How
wise
can you what, sorry?
Socrates, how can you tell the difference from an ignorant man to a wise man?
So now we're getting in Socrates and going back. Thank you, Sarah. And you're saying, how can you distinguish between an ignorance and a wise guy? And here we're back to wisdom. Were you the one who mentioned wisdom and truth? Okay, all right. Now, there was another hand. Yes.
So
Tell us your name again, sorry. Megan, yes.
truth is truth.
Truth is true.
So maybe what I believe to be true, someone else might not believe to be true. But that isn't different truths. That's different perceptions on truth.
Okay. All right. So here, once again, the distinction that she made earlier, I think, Nicole, between truth as a fact and it happened, but then how you interpret it, it is another matter. But now, this is where, to me, we're into the core of what I refer to as the democratic test, so to speak. How do we deal with differences? How do we deal with differences? Especially when it is a difference where lives are involved. Sorry, what do you think? Back to the issue, because the big question, and we have 2.5 minutes left, and then I will move to another topic. Of course, these are all related, we can build on it. And that is, does truth matter or not matter, and why?
I don't think it always matters.
You don't think it always matters? Tell us.
Because I feel that even though, I'm always a person who has grown around the idea of always reading the news and always saying that's the truth of what happened. But especially considering that nowadays we're within the EU and there's so many different cultures, you can't really say that it's always the truth. This is like, for example, when we learn at school from Wilfred Owen, he actually says it that everyone believed they were on the right side. Everyone believed God was on their side during the war. But was it true? No, it wasn't.
Okay.
And it's like telling a child. The child sometimes will tell you, I'm the fastest in the world. Obviously, you have to test them to see if it's true. And
Yes.
at the time, you might not think so.
Yes.
But who am I to go and tell them that they're wrong or tell them that it's not true? Because in reality, there might be another bolt in the making.
Okay, all right. And then we get into now the politics of truth. There is another hand here and another one here. I'll get you, okay? Yes?
About what Michaela said.
Speak to the microphone so that...
Then becomes a difference between belief and truth. Like
Belief
you
and
believe
truth. Bravo, yes.
something to be true, but that doesn't make it true.
Of course. And if the truth becomes reasonable, then it may become a truth or a fact.
Even then,
Okay, all right.
things that may be accepted as true currently might be in the future say, this is wrong.
Okay.
Like in the past, certain things which were accepted to be true
Of
are
course.
now thought of as,
Of course.
untrue.
Yes, yes. Okay. Thank you. Your name again is?
Nader.
Nader. Thank you, Nader.
Hi, Lisa here.
Yes, Lisa.
So, from my point of observation, we're going forward with education, technology, and there is always the same problem, which is limited by language and the differences in cultures. I think we should be more compassionate towards different truths, because truth is relative, I think. We just need to be more open and acceptive to one another, I believe. Personally.
Even if it involves a killing of someone else?
A killing, you're hurting someone, so that's not compassion, definitely not.
Okay, I understand.
That's
So
my
there is no
point.
contradiction in your mind in what you're saying?
I believe that
Yeah.
compassion is key. So
Okay, all right. Look, it says -2, -3, but go ahead, and then I'll take her as the last one, and then I'll move on, okay, to another channel connected. Your name?
Ben.
Ben.
I don't believe that truth is relative. I believe that truth is purely based on facts, and without those facts, judgment cannot be properly made. If the truth can be changed in light of new facts, but in my eyes, I don't think it's relative. I believe that people perceive truth differently, but I think that truth is a constant state.
Okay, all right. And are you referring to a level of particular truths, like a fact, like this is a table, or Valletta is the capital city of Malta, or then, of course, maybe the belief, truth for some people, that we won because God is with us, if she exists? Okay. Sorry. People laugh when I say that. They say, what did you say? She. I said, look, for about 2,000 years, we refer to he. So now, for the next 2,000 years, we go back to she, okay? All right, sorry. Yes. Sorry, Ben, you have anything else to add? No, okay. The last one on this one is Carlene. Sorry, Carlene.
I think that the truth is always in the middle.
The truth is always in the middle.
I may not agree with you on something, and I have my truth, and you have your truth, and they may not be the truth after all. The truth may just be in the middle. That's why I believe that if, to me, this is my truth and you have a different one, we need to discuss it. We need to find a common ground. And that is the only way, really, towards finding the truth, to talk with people who disagree with you and finding a middle.
And you're referring to the interpretation of truth, or truth like saying, this is white, and someone there says, no, it is black. So I go in the middle and say, you know what? Darn it, it's gray. Sorry. You see what I'm saying? All right. Okay. Think. Let's move to another section, all right? Let's move to another section. But before we move on, to give them a bit of a break, and I can ask them, I can tell them what the next one is, and then I will take 2 quick comments from the audience to get a sense of the pulse that matters or doesn't matter. Everybody matters. Okay, it matters. All right. Technology is the next section. Technology is, the English word technology is from 2 Greek words, techne, which means the means, the tool, and logos, which means the word, reason, okay, discourse, okay. Do you find this technology helpful, and why? Do you find it at times hindering, and why? That's the question I want to ask you. Think about it. In the meantime, anyone from the audience wants to comment? Not a question at this side. Comment? Yes, sir?
Usually, when somebody is asked what do they think of technology, it comes from a fellow from Apple, Alan Kay, who was a genius. So he says that people think of technology as all the things that were invented after they were born. And then they forget that technology existed long before they were born.
Yes. That's why. The means of, yeah.
Yes. So we have to remember that things like the piano, a piano has 20,000 components. It's not a simple technology.
Okay.
The book is a technology, writing is a technology.
It's a tool, it's a means. That's it. Carla, you're supposed to be here. She's writing. Okay, you can't write on the stage? I'm just kidding, go ahead.
So a lot of you have said that we have a right to know the truth and everyone should be able to have access to the truth. But what if people are happier not knowing the truth and sticking with their own idea of truth? Is this another problem?
Okay. Thank you. There is Massimiliano. L'ho detto bene ora? Benissimo, grazie. Okay, yes. Last comment, and then I'll move to the student again. I need some more water, if someone can get... grazie. Go ahead, Massimiliano.
About the discussion on agency, so who we are, ethics, should we say the truth or not, and what is truth, how we perceive the truth, subjective, objective, and so on. I'm sure you all remember the debate on the dress on Twitter. Which color was the dress?
Yes.
Enjoy.
Thank you, Massimiliano. Okay, so I will do this occasionally to get a pulse of the audience, okay? I won't allow them to throw any tomatoes. Eggs, all right. No, I'm just kidding, all right. So, Mela, yes. So let's go to the technology bit. And I don't mean bit, part. It's a big question. The means, right? The reason of the means, the tools. What do you think? Do you find technology helpful in your experience? Is it unhelpful? Why not? Okay, let's start with him, and then I'll get Jacob, and then Nicola. Yes, go ahead, and we'll continue. Rachel, all right, good. Megan, sorry, yes. Is that the truth? Sorry. Go ahead.
To me, technology has always been the most helpful thing in my whole life, but to me also it was the most burden thing in my whole life because it's actually the thing that makes me so lazy.
Give me an example of technology that helped you and that what made you lazy.
For sure, like literally right now I have my phone in my pocket. It's probably the one thing that has everything on it. If I need to look up something, I'll just use my phone.
And that's helpful.
To me, it's helpful, but at the same time, it's also a burden because
teachers say don't use the phone. Sorry.
No, no, because how they always tell you that not all the things that on the internet is also reliable.
Okay.
They tend to always keep reading books.
Fair enough.
But then they'll be like, I'll be like, the book is all the way far away. I need to go and find it. But why so?
Very clear. Thank you for your example. All right, Jacob. Let's go to Jacob. You have a microphone. Thank you, Jacob.
Well, I think in general, when it comes to technology, people perceive it as useful to the extent maybe that they can control it. That they treat it as an appendage they can use wherever they want, rather than something that will dictate their way of life. It probably does in the case of a mobile phone. It changes your habits, but you like to think that your habits are merely changing because you've seen the value in the technology or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think more generally, when we're talking about truth, it is about power and inequality, isn't it? And part of, I guess, the notion of the post-truth society here, we're saying this particular phrase, which we're using to describe this historical moment, 2015 to present or whatever.
Yes.
And I get the sense it's used to describe this, well, quite apparent, perhaps more so now. I think it was always a factor, but now due to social media, there's a disconnect, right, between people who feel like, I mean, this notion of the truth is what the powerful. It's that the notion of the truth that the elites control. So they have no interest in towing the line, really. So I think that funnels into relativism and so on and so forth. People, they get the sense that when we make these pronouncements about truth, it's just a particular liberal interpretation. So why do we need to really have these conversations in a very kind of messianic fashion? I think.
Thank you, Jacob. So you're reminding us of the connection between politics and truth, and politics is not just party politics, of course. There is politics here. There is a power relationship. Hopefully it's a positive one. I'm trying to do my best that this will be an empowering one rather than a disempowering one. There is no guarantee, but that is what I'm aiming to do. There are power relations in families. There are power relations in organizations everywhere, okay? All right, so, and then the whole issue of technology could be used properly or not properly, given the political the hegemony, the powerful. Okay, Nicole, you're next, or go ahead.
So,
and then I'll come back to here, Sarah, okay? Yes.
Technology, in my everyday to day tasks, it helps, from my phone, going to my laptop, checking the weather.
Yes.
But if you were to really think about it, has it really helped you to communicate? Or are you disconnecting to reconnect again? And
but do you use the technology to communicate as well?
Yes, we use it. There are, through the social media apps, you communicate.
You may not be communicated in
it depends to what
I
extent
communicated
you
when
want
I
to
was
take
your age.
communication to. Is it communicating via, sending a message via text, via an online web? Is it this is communication?
Yes.
What is communication? So, yeah.
Sending the George, what is communication? Sorry. Okay. By the way, I'm only wearing a bow tie for George, so he can do another sketch.
To a certain extent, I can answer
and so
this
that
question
Alex
as well.
can reproduce the narrative that Portelli cannot talk without a bow tie. Sorry, yes.
So, communication is a message which is being transcended from a sender to a receiver in its basic form.
Okay.
Communication.
That was a very textbook case, by the way.
Yeah, very textbook
Communication is two people interacting.
Two people interacting.
Possibly one person interacting with a lot of people, or a lot of people interacting with one person.
Okay,
But it's an interaction. That's what it is.
All right. Okay. Between organisms. So cockroaches communicate? Of course. Okay. All right. So you're no. So your next point. Sorry, because I cut you off.
So
I apologize.
No, so for me it helps me.
Okay.
But I have a different opinion when I have to see it from a communicative perspective.
Of course. And as John reminded us, it's not just the phone that is technology. Many things, like the microphone is technology. Is the shoe a technology? Of course. All right. So
the microphone is aiding for my voice to be projected better.
And that's
so yes,
technology.
that would be helpful.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Okay. All right. Nicole, and then I will get Sarah, Megan, and Ben, and then someone here. Okay, good. All right. Yes, Intikon. No, sorry. Yes, go ahead. You need to remind me of the order. Nicole.
I just want to point out, because I feel like we've diverted from seeing technology as a tool. At the end of the day, I feel like it's almost abolishing us of any responsibility for how we use it by saying that technology itself is harmful. In the end of the day, looking at the internet as the example that's been brought up, you have, oh, I've been wasting time because I'm addicted to it or because it consumed my life. We developed it to do that. We have powerful people who are developing systems that are meant specifically to capture our attention, to keep us there. It is not the technology in itself that did that. It is us that manipulated technology to do that. So that's the only.
That's right. So it seems to me, Nicole, you are reminding us that technology is not neutral. It is, in some sense, neutral, but then how you use it gets into the whole issue of aims. And then it's no longer neutral, and it could be negative, positive, and so on. All right, who was next? Sarah.
I don't think technology disconnects us. I feel like that now technology, with the advancements that we're going on, it creates multiple realities. For example, virtual reality, the Bitcoin currency. It has affected every aspect in our life, and it's the only problem with technology is we've become vulnerable to it. It's the way you perceive it. It's the way you let your emotions take down. You use your emotions towards it. But in reality, the whole purpose of technology is for advancement and evolution.
So are you saying emotions are bad? I'm pushing you now, Sarah.
To
you
a
can
sense,
say I
yes.
disagree
To a
with
sense,
you.
yes. No, I actually do believe that. For example, the Bitcoin. There were some people that were smart enough to buy it when it was €2, and they ended up with getting a lot of money. And then there were the people that were making fun of it. It's again, you're just mad at it because of what you received and your emotions.
I understand your point. Thank you. Megan.
So technologies has its good and bad, especially nowadays where it's advancing at a really rapid rate. So on the good side, it's a really good tool for active citizenship, for getting people together. Of course, it doesn't replace the offline active citizenship. But also on the reverse side, there's the problem of propaganda, state fake news. I mean, how often do we see tweets? I mean, yes, there's Trump, but even local examples.
Of course.
And also a really building problem is facial recognition technology. I mean, how often do you go out in the street in Malta? Every day I'm seeing it. New cameras popping up. Who is watching? Why? And what's the use? It's Orwellian.
I see your point, and this is reminding me, I still do a lot of work, and I don't say this in disrespect, but in respect. I still do a lot of work with teachers and head of schools in Toronto, where I live now for the last 20 years. I've worked almost all over different parts of Canada. And unfortunately, in the last 10 years, surveillance cameras in schools have mushroomed. There is also the issue of what I refer to as the glass architecture. I mean, students tell me, I have done research in Canadian schools, they have no privacy. Everything is in glass, and they have to go and hide to really, and this from my Canadian side now, I find extremely dangerous for the survival of democracy. But I'm an extremist. Sorry. Okay, who's next? Ben. And then, no? Carlene, yes.
I believe that technology, yes, was worked upon to be used as a tool, but now, since everything has snowballed, everything has been flipped to the mirror image. So when Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook, he created it to connect people through different, from other sides of the country and all that. But since billions of people started to use Facebook, it did the complete opposite. People have, now, in this day and age, where the world has never been more connected, people are so disconnected. If you place 100 people our age into a room, they will probably speak to the 2 or 3 people they've known before. And if they've never met anyone, they're far less likely to make friends or make close friends now, because everyone's disconnected. Everyone knows each other from their screens. So everyone has more social anxiety. Everyone is scared to speak in public. If you go in public and you see someone on their phone, you look at them, you go. Have you ever gone onto a bus? I'm sure that all of you relate to this. You go onto a bus and it's full of people our age on their phones with darting eyes. Everyone looks at each other for 1 second or less. No one looks at each other anymore. No one talks to each other anymore. They talk to each other on Instagram. They talk to each other on Facebook. That's easy because you're behind the screen.
I see.
But from something that went from being a useful tool to something that destroyed our society.
I understand what you're saying. Thank you. Okay. I think she wants to come in, maybe Nicole, but there is Charlene first. So Charlene and you want to come in? Or, hold a second. Okay, so let me get her, and then I'll give you a chance, and then go back to Sarah let's give a chance to a newcomer. You haven't spoken yet, all right? So, all right. Wait a bit. Can we give her a chance? She's new. I'm not being unequal. I'm being, all right? You see what I mean? It's not one size fits all. Different, okay, go ahead. We have a new person talking. Your name is?
Natalia.
Natalia, thank you, yes.
So to link to what Megan was saying, technology should be there to help you express yourself recently, but with the rise of hate speech, it's not really...
Okay, so that is another example of misuse.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you, Natalia. Charlene, and then I'll get to the group there, and then 126, we have to conclude this and move on. Charlene.
Technology has undeniably become vital to our modern lives.
It has what, sorry?
It has become undeniably vital to our modern lives. We can't say it's all bad. Everything around us is technology. Our phones, our laptops, these microphones, the cameras, everything is technology. However, minimizing the harm that technology is bringing comes with realizing just how addicted we are.
Yes.
When we realize how addicted we are to technology, we start to minimize the levels of how much we're using it. We start to realize when to use it, when to not. If I didn't realize that I have an addiction to technology, I probably would be on my phone right now instead of participating. And that is the problem. We should realize that technology is everywhere. And if we let it take over to an extreme level, we won't even realize just how bad it's getting.
I understand. Okay, there is a question in my mind, not for you to answer it now, maybe during education. Is there a difference between that kind of addiction and indoctrination? But later, okay. Yes?
I wanted to talk about Ben's point, where he was saying that technology has somehow made us more, has taken us far apart from each other. And I want to disagree with this because technology has, in my opinion, most definitely brought us actually closer together. Even 15 years ago, you couldn't talk, let's say one of your friends moved abroad. It was very hard for you to talk to them. You'd have to send them a letter or have to get their phone number somehow. I think the idea that we have become more socially anxious or less prepared to make friends has come from the fact that these issues have become, mental issues as in, have become more well-known and more accepted because 20, 30 years ago, if you had social anxiety, you were forced by your parents or by your friends to be in social settings. These days, if you are uncomfortable in a social setting, you can stay at home, you can talk to your friends anyway, you can still connect with other people.
Okay, all right. The other Sarah, right? No, Rachel? Michaela, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Nader. I really agree with Nader's point. I am actually an example of where I can tell you that technology hasn't been a problem in my life.
Has been or has not?
Hasn't been.
Hasn't been.
I mean, okay, I understand. I'm hearing a lot of students say because we're disconnected, and I can't say I agree. I'm actually an example of how technology has helped me. I've studied a few years abroad, and I can say that this experience, technology, has actually helped me, given me another tool. The reason being is I'm a person who completely follows the news. Like, if you find me awake at 4 in the morning, I'll probably be watching the news. Okay. But it's sort of where I had experiences where I got to write about stuff I enjoyed, or even at school I did an assignment due to the fact that I had a friend who lived there. Like, for example, not recently, a few years ago, I remember there had been a bomb in the airport of Brussels, and my friend had just left on a plane. And I remember I discovered, not through the news, I discovered through Facebook because we had the class chat, and everyone was messaging, like, did she leave? Is she still there?
Okay.
And sort of, I remember seeing it on the news. So really, I don't see why we look at technology and we see it as a way that it's disconnecting us and all these things. Really, it's just giving journalism another tool. It's another way to discover what's going on in the world, instead of waiting till the end of the week to discover it on your favorite program, or maybe waiting for the news service. I can just discover now what's going on.
All right. I'm seeing hands up here. I'm looking at here. So let us go with 1, 2. We'll give him a chance in 2, and Sarah, and then we will end this and move on. Okay? Yes?
Well, you know, technology in itself, it helps you to talk to the masses at the end of the day. But
it could.
It could. It could.
Yes.
It could.
Depends what language you use.
I feel that in Malta as well, you know, we cannot seem to find where to draw the line. Especially, for example, now that we have social media, radio, and especially, you know, censorship, and in Malta especially, I feel that the authorities have a hard time to draw when to censor and when not to censor. So that's my problem.
Okay. But, I mean, the issue of drawing the line, I've experienced it many times in Canada as well. But your context is Malta, which is okay. Ben, and then I will get Sarah, and we will end this part. Yes?
I agree with what Michaela said, because technology is a useful tool when it comes to contacting people across the world, when it comes to informing yourself about what's happening every day. But my point was, now you have to, it's undeniable when you look at our social lives in person, you can tell that it's just fractured. It's there, you can see it. It's not what it used to be. it's when my parents tell me stories from when they were young, when they were playing outside in the streets with their friends, from socializing, from making new friends out of nowhere. Now we make friends by pressing a button, and that's not a real friend. You know, that's what I'm saying, because I know that you can have family in Australia and you can contact them and talk to them via Skype, but it's not helping you make good friends. That's what.
Okay, you're making an assumption of what a good friend is. Okay, quickly, Michaela, yes, go ahead.
No, you can find out who he is by talking to him.
But through that button, the random kid you played with in the street, you can know for the next few years.
Okay, all right, okay. I mean, we can continue, I don't mind, but then we're taking time from the other section.
The concept of disconnecting to reconnect.
All right. Sarah?
Just to add on to Ben's point, I don't believe that it's technology that's what's dividing us. I believe that we're a generation that lacks participation. No offense to anyone.
All right, okay. All right.
No offense to anyone who
I
didn't
suppose this means yes?
Let me tell you, I have always been a person that do not want to socialize. If it was not a mobile, it was a book in my hand. If I don't want to socialize, it's my hand. I need to stop with the book. I need to stop with the mobile.
And
it's self-control.
And because we never learned how to build character, how to speak to other people, how to have that confidence to speak to anyone. And again, education, it all goes back to that.
I'll get them. Okay. And all right. It seems that let's spend another 2-3 minutes on this. I thought there was another hand. Megan, yes, tell me.
I think Sarah just raised the point about young people not interacting, and it's also the case of civil society. I mean, in the past, my parents tell me when the schools were closed by the government, essentially. Students were literally out on the streets. They weren't afraid of anything.
Of course.
But today, no.
It's a different context.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm looking at my own context in Canada. I mean, I lived in apartment buildings out of, most probably 300 households in a 44-floor building. You may know 1 or 2 people, and everybody looks suspiciously at you as if, especially when I used to grow the beard here and had long hair. At any rate, okay. Nadir. Nadir, right?
I disagree with this idea that somehow technology is bad just because people have become, again, more separate. This idea that somehow our generation is less participatory just because we use our phones or something is insulting, in my opinion, because you can't call our generation less participatory because, we have much harder roadblocks for us personally to organize protests or to do whatever.
With phones, yes.
Even the idea that we somehow lack the moral character to act on our beliefs just because we use our phones. Like, I feel actually that technology has actually helped us to, connect even more. For example, I want to mention the Arab Spring in Libya. For example, it started through Facebook.
Yes.
Through the private messages on Facebook. It doesn't start through people talking on the streets.
Yes, I understand.
So definitely technology can.
We can continue back and forth, and Carlene wants to come in. And then I want to ask, maybe if any of the ones who haven't spoken, even if you want to say one little phrase on this, I'll give you the time to do that. I'm not saying you have to. Yes?
I think that it's not necessarily using our phones or not using our phones. It's what we're using our phones for.
Yes, of course.
Because I can be watching the news on my phone, and I can be wasting time playing a game on my phone. It's our choice, and it's also the culture of this passive idea that you don't have to involve yourself and you don't have to speak out that we've been brought up with. Yes. We were brought up in a culture of apathy and silence. And so the concept of learning and speaking up and standing up to your content, it is not something that is valuable to us in our generation.
Sure. Imagine in my generation, I went to school in the 50s and 60s. I was punished if I was caught speaking Maltese in school. God knows how many detentions I got because I said one phrase in Maltese. My goodness, right? I'm just comparing and saying it. Unfortunately, it's not a new thing. Now, from those who haven't yet spoken, is there someone who wants to add something or repeat a point so that I'll get a sense of all of you? Okay, you haven't on this one, yes? Lisa, sorry, from The Simpsons. No.
Just another observation, like globally, because when we mention technology, it's like we look at ourselves, the phone. It's an extended part of ourselves, right? For me, it's
like the
iPad.
glasses.
Exactly. For me, it's the iPad because I'm a digital artist. But anyway, I think globally technology has improved the way we interact with each other because there hasn't been that much peace in the world as much as there is today. Like before, there were more wars and everything.
You think so? Okay, go ahead.
I think it shifted. I think violence shifted. I mean, now it's attacking personally on the phone, trolls.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
I would like to hear
I'm
your
not. I'm not
opinion.
trying to diminish your point. Sorry.
Thank you.
I tend to too much. Okay. She hasn't yet spoken. Let's give her the floor, and then I'll get Jacob again. And that person before Jacob. Yes. Go ahead, madam. Signora.
Technology has created various emotions in people, has affected many lives. When she mentioned that less wars are going on, in reality, wars are going on. On Facebook, likes affect many people. Friendships are broken through likes and reactions. And, you know, if I'm in a class of people and they get hundreds of likes on the picture and I am the only person that's getting 20 likes, it will affect me morally and it will affect the people around me and make me feel less. It will make me feel less valuable than the other people.
Exactly. So,
and that's a big competition that's going on online in the real world at the moment.
thank you for reminding us of this point.
And
there are several movies, actually, fictitious, within quotes,
yes,
that
which
focus on this
sometimes
very
leads
thing.
to very bad happenings. I think the thing that Facebook and Instagram are trying to remove likes and reactions is in a way a good idea because it will lessen the amount of this competition.
Okay. And teachers are allowed to give stars or no stars? I'm pushing. Sorry, I hope not. All right. Okay, I'm next. Yes, sorry, yeah.
In my opinion, it will always, when it comes to technology, always comes down to balance. Because we can all agree that it has its pros and also has its cons. So it will always come down to how you use it, what you use it for.
Jacob, before I forget, and Nadir, and then I'm going to move on, okay? Definitely. Come what may, even if the roof falls. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Sure. So we just heard that, likes, comments, these affect people, particularly of my generation. But I think these have also opened up new forms of engagement and activity. I mean, look at the climate protests. There are different things that excite people. Live streams, emojis, various comments. They may seem completely banal, but those are the things which will get people out on the streets nowadays, or if not out on the streets, creating noise on social media. So I think it's about reinventing political action in very different forms. We just don't know what the conclusions will be yet, maybe.
Okay, all right. Thank you for this, all right? I'm very glad that more are coming into the conversation. I encourage you to keep on doing this. We'll move to the third part now, the issue of governance and government. I need to remind you, governance and government is not simply a matter of parliament or governments as we know them, but governance exists in many different organizations. There is governance in families. There is some form of governance, hidden or not hidden, among friends, within associations, within institutions, whether it is education, hospitals, and so on and so forth, okay? So I encourage you to think broadly, because politics is always involved with these institutions and organizations. Politics in its root sense, namely the power relationships among human beings, right? And hopefully we try to find ways how to make these power relationships being positive and helpful, ethically appropriate rather than not. I mean, your points, I take it, about technology pro and con is again, I mean, how can it help us? How can it not help us, right? And that is itself a form of governance as well, I would want to argue. And it is also good to remember that policies, the same action that an organization takes, may be very helpful for these three and not helpful for these two, although it was meant to be helpful for everybody. And then they make a change and they discover that now it's helpful for these three. So this is the nature of governance and power relationships. With that, my question is, are you happy with, in your experiences, whether it is within family, among yourselves, in schools, in churches, organizations, with journalism, and so on and so forth, are you happy with the forms of governance in any of these organizations that you have experienced? Why are you happy with them? Why not? Do you have any suggestions how we as people can improve with these relationships in these institutions? You're thinking, yes? There's someone already. Yes, go ahead. Megan.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Maria.
So I can speak from a university perspective.
Oh, yes.
I know for a fact that there are actually student organizations within their executive boards. They have stipulations and rules
Yes.
where the executive members aren't allowed to discuss particular issues online. Such as, I'm going to use the case of Daphne Caruana Galizia.
Yes.
I know that some people have been told never to mention her, which is a shame, I mean, on a university campus. There's also the case where executive board members, again, are expected to shake hands with politicians. Now, they can be politicians from any color, I mean, red, blue, green, whatever. And I tend to disagree with that. I think as students, we have a voice and we should use it. So if we refuse to shake a hand of a politician, especially with someone who's, I mean, I speak from experience, so imagine this politician stands in the way of justice, or maybe he's a racist, maybe she's a sexist, I don't know, it could be anything.
Yes.
If I'm shaking his or her hand, I am agreeing with what they stand for. And I think students shouldn't be doing that. And I know it happens and it needs to stop.
Okay, all right. So I hear you. I didn't mean to be rude, but once you said university and you said another phrase, it immediately reminded me of a news item that popped up on my phone as we were having discussions this morning. Darn it. Okay, all right. Report, this is from the Gazette in the US. University of Iowa faculty, this is a respectable university in the United States, told not to promote Greta Thunberg's visit on school social media in the city of Iowa where the university is at, okay? I'm not justifying, but simply, I mean, these things unfortunately continuously happen, even within institutions of education, all right?
And if we students aren't allowed to voice our opinion, I mean, how are things going to change?
I hear you, Megan. Thank you. All right, so let's move on. Sarah, Carlene. Okay. Go ahead, Sarah. Your turn.
I think people in power are also removing creativity in our lives. For example, let's say a school, because we're on that debate. For example, the fact that we have uniforms, there's nothing wrong with it. But even with that, the fact that we're arguing about boys, they can't wear earrings, or girls, that whole discussion in this morning. Who cares? You know what I mean? When you're young, you have that creativity and all that inspiration and excitement. It dies out after growing up.
Yes.
And that's again blamed on the education system.
Of course. Why do you think I ended up as a push-out? I wasn't a dropout. I was a push-out, you see? Okay, thank you. All right. But someone may say these things matter. It may not matter for you.
But why do they matter? How come Cole here, if he wears an earring and I'm not, that makes a difference with his intelligence?
Okay. I'll get you, Charlene. You want to reply to this? No. Okay. Charlene, then. Yes?
I think we are at a state where freedom of expression is threatened. And that means that our democracy, I mean worldwide, is threatened. And may I say that when I say freedom of speech, I do not mean hate speech.
You include hate speech?
No, I mean, I do not mean hate speech. I don't think that they are the same thing. We are getting to a point where freedom of expression is something that may be considered inappropriate or scandalous. And I think that creates a certain political illiteracy where everyone is apatheist and culturally uninformed, and that threatens our modern democracy. We are living in a world where a journalist is killed and the case is not final. There's nothing. It's been 2 years. We are living in a world where if you speak up, if you are someone like Greta Thunberg and say something that you believe in, you are threatened with your life on the other side of the world. We are getting to a point where if you are speaking up, you are expecting to be killed and have no justice done on you.
Okay. All right. I can't remember your name, sorry.
Cole.
Cole.
I'll be kind of building up on what you said. And the thing is that I'm really tired of is that any person who's in power will try and make the people that he's governing feel still stupid. And it's what I'm really tired of. Because a person could say that that he would legit have a right reason. But the person in power, since he's actually being objected and actually being wronged, he'll put him down. Like, for example, if actually during a family your dad says something to you and you respond and your response is actually makes sense and it's right, he'll tell you, oh, so can you stop speaking in disrespect? Yeah.
So you're giving us an example from government and an example from governance in the family. Yeah. All right. Cole, now we go to Nicole and then Nadir, and you haven't spoken yet, so we'll give him a chance. Nicole, him, okay, go ahead. Then Nicole and Nadir, go ahead.
We are focusing on piercing, and we have one of the highest school leavers in Malta. So why are we not focusing on that and rather than focusing on piercing?
Okay. All right. Fair
Talking
question.
about the school.
Hold on. Nicole was before you. Nicole?
I just like to mention that to the point of we are living in an age where self-expression is at an all-time low. I disagree with that completely. I think that although a lot of secondary education system might feel like that, especially in Malta, where the majority of the population is conservative, so that obviously is translated being as it's mainly the older generation. The older generations are the one controlling it. That it may feel like that, but in the end of the day, as a society, we are in no way.
We are what? Sorry.
Our ability to express ourselves is at the highest it's ever been, in my opinion. In the past, we've been shunned for showing a different opinion, especially in countries like Malta, where religion was the be-all and end-all there. If you have a different opinion, you're cast out. We were talking about this in the panel yesterday, about the circle of trust. Your opinion means nothing unless you fall under it. And to relate to a different industry, because I feel like we've stayed in education for a long time, and journalism was also brought up, I think that's more a problem of how society functions as a whole now, that in order for journalism to function, obviously, we live in a capitalist society, we live in a society that depends on money. And that means we live in a society where the masses are in control, because in the end of the day, the masses are the ones who decide where they want to put their money to. And the loudest majority are the ones that are going to be heard. That is a fact. It's how it's going to end in the day. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nicole. Also, let's continue unpacking. Yes, Nadir, and then Megan again. Sorry. Yes. I will connect this with education, because one of the questions you asked, some of the students asked a couple of times on the board, was the whole issue of whether politics and politics. I have it here in writing. Give me a second. Yes, your idea that teachers discourage activism and speaking out, that was one point, and should we not be teaching politics with inverted commas in schools? Remember, you raised that, Alex reminded us, and he said, so we can combine this part and move to that part on education as well, all right? So, Nadir.
I was going
And
to
then
talk
Megan?
about apathy and the general consensus among young people. I think it's more of a problem in general of the failure of modern politics to engage the vast majority of people into having reasonable discussions. I think not just the Maltese government, most of the governments of Europe and even North America have failed, I guess, their constituents or their people in giving them actual feasible solutions for their want. So I think that after 10 years of their questions not being answered, people will either become extreme or they will become very apathetic to any further developments in their country.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Let's move on. Who else? Megan, sorry.
Just to latch on to what Nicole said.
Yes?
I disagree. Freedom of speech isn't at an all-time high. I mean, how can you say that? I mean, in our own country, a journalist was blown up outside her home. I mean, 2 years, not knowing who ordered her assassination. Then there's Jamal Khashoggi, there's Jan Kuciak. And of course, here in Malta, we have the troll armies, often very, state-paid usually. And people are silenced. I mean, you can't even lay a flower anymore on a memorial, a protest memorial actually, not simply a memorial.
I understand.
To assassinate a journalist. You're held abuses at. Some people have been physically attacked. I mean, you can't say freedom of speech is at an all-time high in a situation like that.
May I respond?
Yes. I don't hear any condoning of what you're saying, but let's give her a chance. Yes.
Because of the Galata thing being brought up, I think my point still stands simply because a journalist was killed, and that was an insane thing to happen. But taking all the other factors, that journalist was a woman who was given a platform. That journalist had said a lot about a lot of politicians, and I'm not condoning the actions held against her. Please do not take me out of context in that sense. I'm just saying that she had a long career of saying whatever she wanted. The fact that we live in a place where something like can happen is insane, but no, I can't agree. I still don't agree. I mean...
Okay. I'll give you a chance also. There are two other hands that immediately... So let me give them a chance, and I promise I'll come back to you, okay? Your name?
Antea.
Andrea, scusi, I forgot.
Andrea.
Atea. Sorry, Atea.
It's okay. I don't agree that we don't have any freedom of speech, especially as women. I mean, if this had been, I don't know, maybe 40 years ago, we wouldn't be here as women. So I don't agree with the whole freedom of speech. Then again, we can post anything we like. I don't see why there should be any restrictions. And we don't have to be scared, actually. If we're telling the truth, it shouldn't be threatened. We shouldn't be threatened about it if it's the truth, no?
All right. So there may be the possibility that both of these things could happen at the same time. That could be possible, okay? And of course, people will have different interpretations of these things. And the point here is to get these points out so that we can understand where we're coming from and move on, hopefully, in a better way. I will get you, Megan. Let me get Ben and Nadir, and then you are next, okay?
I was going to say I agree with Nicola, because I think we have had currently much more freedom of speech to talk about whatever we want these days than in Malta 10 years ago. These days you can have a debate about abortion or about gay rights, but 10 years ago, even mentioning those things would be, the heresy, basically. So I think these days, rather than being a problem with freedom of speech, I think it's more of a climate of fear that, a journalist got assassinated and nothing happened, or Saudi Arabia murdered a journalist and nothing happened, or I think in that case it should be the government that addresses that problem.
All right. Okay. Ben, were you raising your hand? Yes. Okay, so Ben, and then back to Megan, and then Carlene, and then Owen, Keith, and okay. All right, go ahead, Ben.
Freedom of speech and freedom of expression are two completely different things. Freedom of expression is me being able to grow my hair out and have facial hair and express my character in the way I want. And freedom of speech is being able to say whatever I want, about whoever I want, whenever I want, wherever I want, because that's freedom of speech. The fact that Daphne was killed shows that our country does still have a problem with freedom of speech. Yes, what Nader said is true, because 20 years ago, if you were having an open discussion about gay marriage, you'd be shunned out of society. But nowadays, that's acceptable. Now, freedom of speech is on its path to being what we want it to be, but I still believe that it's under attack because it's not freedom of speech as much as we want it to be. Because if certain things are said about certain people, clearly bad things happen to them.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. I'll come back to Megan now, and Carlene, and Owen, and Keith. Keir and Natalia. Okay, go ahead.
Just put it clear in your minds.
I think I have to ask the students to be quiet. Sorry, I meant Alexander. I'm teasing them, sorry. Go ahead, Megan.
Just think why a journalist was assassinated. I mean, she was assassinated for her writing, for her journalism, for expressing herself. And those are fundamental human rights, which even we have. I mean, just look at the European Convention of Human Rights, Article 10. You've got freedom of expression, which also includes the freedom to receive information. So when Daphne was killed, when assassinated, when Jan Kuciak was assassinated, Jamal Khashoggi, I mean, the citizens' right to know was affected. And also this climate of fear, someone just mentioned it. Yes. We all fear speaking out, but unless we do speak out, there won't be justice, there won't be change.
All right. I will simply say one thing. You said all fear. No.
No.
Okay.
What I mean is...
Yes. You mean to say that you fear?
No, I don't
fear. You don't fear?
I mean, it's normal to feel fear, but then you have to overcome it.
Okay. All right.
Like, I'm not afraid to speak out.
All
I mean,
right.
obviously.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify. That's all right. Thank you. Carlene, she needs a microphone. Would you?
I feel like I need to send a general message that should be common knowledge that no matter what someone says, freedom of expression is freedom of expression nonetheless. And no one deserves to be murdered for what they're saying. Nobody deserves to be assassinated for it. And we must never justify an assassination because of what that journalist said. No matter how ludicrous it was, we should never excuse it. Thank you.
Yeah, but Carlene, honestly, I haven't heard anyone justifying the murder. So the argument here is whether there is freedom of expression or not.
Someone on that side said that she said, I forgot who, she said that because she said a lot of things that were untrue and hurt a lot of people.
They didn't justify it, though.
But she immediately, she said, let me make it very clear. I'm not condoning what happened. It was very clear.
It is not an excuse.
No, and she made that very clear. She's not excusing at all the assassination. I mean, horrific. I mean, in no ways can anyone justify that. But you have the right to express that also. All right. So now we have Keith. Kiel. Sorry, Kiel. I'm an old person. I'm coming deaf.
The question of internet comes with.
Yes. Speak to the microphone.
And I've seen a lot of opinions from both sides, and both were good.
Sorry.
When internet existed, no one had ever had ever the opinion that it would come this big, where people would put opinions on it. And nowadays, with internet, authoritarianism has significantly decreased. We have seen the Algerian regime go down, the Sudanese regime go down. And I've seen that the Maltese opinion on freedom of speech is at a significant all-time high. I have never seen Maltese.
In your view? Okay.
In my view.
That's what we need to say. Thank you. Are you done?
No.
Go ahead.
And I think that seeing this and judging this, I think with the comments that we put and the statuses that we put online, I think that we are putting more activism, and that's why I think that freedom of speech is at an all-time high.
Okay.
I do not, I refuse, I am not of the opinion that freedom of speech is not an all-time high in Malta. I disagree intensely.
Okay. All right. Now, let's see who was Inti. So, sorry.
I
And
think
then her, and then back to Michaela. Yes. Sorry. 13 over. Okay, so after this, I will do this round, to be fair, and then I'm going to ask them the question of the whole thing? 15 over the whole session? Ah, okay. All right. We will end with this. Okay, go ahead.
I think compared to 20 years ago, we had improved, but it's still not normal compared to other European countries where freedom of speech is much more improved than here in Malta. Where in Malta it's supposed that we are a Western country that we are supposed to have improved more than we had improved.
Okay, thank you. Another viewers, Natalia, and then we'll go back to Michaela. And do you want to come in? A bit, okay, and then quick remark from me and we will end it, okay? Yes, Natalia.
Okay, I disagree that freedom of speech is at an all-time high, because if the government itself is censoring protests, and it's also leading to self-censorship where people are afraid to speak out, and like as we mentioned, the climate of fear, like it's kind of, if you want to speak out after seeing what happens to other people, you're kind of discouraged.
Yes. Okay, Natalia. So I said I will close it after this. Michaela and Nicole, and I will end. Yes?
Okay, so I'm going to
My
answer.
boss will fire me.
Sorry. I'm going to answer a question that actually you put into Earth quotes before, that even we've been repeating through the session that they've put on the board. I just want to say, look at all these opinions among us. These are all because at school they have a subject called critical thinking. And that's because they get to think critically about politics.
Okay.
So to refer back to your previous question, don't you think it's important we have politics in school so others can think the way we do?
My view is yes, of course. My view is yes. But that's
Thank
what
you.
I will end up with. Nicole, you don't have anything. Okay, so before I thank all of them and you who have been patiently waiting, I'm sorry, I thought this was 13 minutes above and then I have another 15 minutes, sorry. Okay, so. She's asking the question about the politics. They asked the question about the politics. This is a question, given my work and my research in Canada, I'm constantly asked by schools in Canada, all right? Constantly. And my view is that given that we are human beings and we're always, there isn't one single moment when we are not in some form of power relationship. And hopefully it is more positive than negative. That is the core of politics, all right? How do we associate together? Given that, it is inevitable that politics is intrinsic to education. I don't mean party politics, all right? So given that, whether it is history, mathematics, and so on, the very pedagogy we use, the very form of testing we use, the very form of readings we select, the very assignments we give, the way we structure the classrooms, the way we structure the timetable, all of that is outwardly political, all right? Therefore, we need to endorse it as something positive and include it throughout the entire curriculum. I have done research on student engagement and controversial issues. You can see them on my webpage. This is the argument I have made. I also want to say this is not based on fiction. I have worked for 12 years with elementary schools in 3 different Canadian provinces with doing philosophy with children. Not philosophy as teaching them to, but doing philosophy with children in this manner, okay? And in '96, I wrote a book entitled Children, Philosophy and Democracy. This, for me, is an old argument, okay? For me personally, it is not disconnected to my reaction of my own schooling in the 50s and 60s in Malta, which was completely dominated by colonial exams, and in many respects, unfortunately, we are still stuck with an educational system that is completely controlled with the exams that you have to sit in for, okay? Which is very problematic for me. Now, conclusion. Thank you very much. I think they deserve a round of applause.